So if you're a golfer, there's a good chance you've been to Bandon Dunes, or you're thinking about going to Bandon Dunes. It is unequivocally the best golf resort in the entire world, and planning a trip here, it can be a little daunting. So we're here to help you. We're out here at Bandon Dunes, and I'm gonna break down everything. I'm gonna tell you what courses to play, I'm gonna tell you where to eat, where to stay, what time of year to go. I'm gonna tell you everything you need to know to plan the ultimate Bandon Dunes getaway. And there's a lot to cover, so let's do this thing. All right, before you start doing any other planning, you gotta figure out when you're going to come. There's pros and cons to visiting any time of the year at Bandon. One of the greatest things is they adjust the rates based on the time of year. So if you wanted to go play, let's say Pebble Beach, you're gonna spend $600 to go do it no matter what time of year it is. But if you wanna go play any of the courses here at Bandon Dunes, it gets as cheap as $100 a round. So $100 a round in the off season, which is December and January, up to $290-ish, $300 a round in the summer. But the cool thing about Bandon is the replay rate. So you get a 50% off replay rate on any of the courses. So if you want to play Pacific Dunes in the morning and you want to play Bandon Trails in the afternoon, you can do that for half the price. If you come in the summer and you can get 3 rounds in, your 3rd round's free. That's pretty cool. But the question you have to ask yourself is, what's more important, budget or time of year? So the best time of year to come if you were worried about the weather is probably August or September. There's a 90% chance you're gonna come out here, have no rain. That being said, you will have wind. There's pretty much always gonna be some wind. So you can have absolutely perfect days out here in January or July. And you can have absolutely torrential rainstorms in January or July. That's part of the magic of Bandon. Some of my best days at Bandon have been in January. I have had multiple days, 65 degrees and sunny, playing in shorts in the middle of January out here. All of these courses were designed with the summer wind in mind. So when you're playing in the winter, you're playing against the prevailing winds, which, well, let's just say it can be challenging, especially if you're playing a course like Old MacDonald, where you can have some very long holes into the wind. What I would recommend you do is go to the Bandon Dunes website, check out the rates for each month, and then find your sweet spot on rates versus time of year, weather, and figure out what the right balance is for you. April, generally a great time to be here. From now until September is going to be awesome. And then, as you get closer to the winter months, you're playing hit and miss a little bit. All right, Bandon Dunes is the original course here at Bandon Dunes Golf Resort, and honestly, it's still one of the best. If it wasn't for Bandon Dunes, none of the rest of us would exist. In my opinion, it has one of the best routings of any golf course in the world, where you start out in the dunes, you work your way out to the ocean, you play along the ocean for 3 holes, you come back in, you go back out to the ocean, you come back in, you go back out to the ocean. It always gives you something to look forward to. So when it comes to when to play Bandon Dunes on your trip, I think this is one of the 2 courses you can play anytime. You can play it early in the trip, late in the trip, afternoon, morning, it doesn't matter. The course is always good, and it's gonna give you a little bit of everything that Bandon Dunes has to offer. All right, so this is my first visit to Bandon in April, when all of the yellow gorse is in bloom. It's absolutely stunning. So it's worth coming here in the spring just to see this across all the courses. Honestly, it's amazing. All right, Pacific Dunes is the most highly ranked by all the traditional publications and everything. It is one of the top 2, top 3 best public courses in the country and one of the top 25 in the world. So when should you play it? Well, this is another one. You can pretty much play it anytime. Play it in the morning, play it in the afternoon. It is always good. And I don't have strong opinions on when you should do it, so you can kind of fit Pacific in whenever you want. There's an argument to be made by maybe saving the best for last, give you something to look forward to, but honestly, you've got something to look forward to with every single golf course here, so I don't really think it matters. One of the unique things about Pacific Dunes is it has 4 par 3s on the back 9. I think it plays 37 on the front and 34 on the back. I have never seen another golf course that does that, but the par 3s it does have are some of the most fun you'll play anywhere. So I've heard people say that Bandon Dunes is more like Scottish golf and Pacific Dunes is more like Irish golf. So Bandon Dunes, it feels put together, feels like a modern links course, whereas Pacific, it's rugged. It feels like there's trouble all over the place. I think it's a more difficult golf course, which has kind of given me a love-hate relationship with it. But every time I play Pacific, I like it more and more, and I can see why so many people consider it their favorite course here. So Bandon Trails is the 3rd course that was built here. It opened in 2005, I think, maybe 2006. Court and Crenshaw course. It's the inland course, so it doesn't get as much of the love as Bandon Dunes and Sheep Ranch and Pacific, all the courses that are right on the ocean, but don't let that fool you. If this course course was on the ocean, it would be top 10 in the world. And as far as my rankings are concerned, it's still top 10 in the world. Really, really fun, unique golf courses, lots of elevation change, and some great views, even if they aren't of the ocean. All right, so I have pretty strong opinions that I think Old MacDonald should be the first course you play on a trip to Bandon. Why? Because it doesn't have some of the views of some of the other courses. So you go play Bandon, Pacific, the Sheep Ranch, you're gonna get insane ocean views. Here you just get a couple peeks at it. Also, because it's a polarizing course, it's one that you may love, but also it might not be your favorite as well. But I think it's a great lead into a trip at Bandon. You start to see what the place is all about, and you know you've got some unbelievable golf to look forward to when you're playing out here. One other note when you're planning your trip, if you only have time for like 2 or 3 rounds and you're coming in the winter, then I would probably skip Old MacDonald. For me, I've played Old MacDonald 4 times. 3 of those times have been in the winter, where holes like 9 through 12 and 4, they're just a slog when you're playing dead into the wind. And especially with limited daylight during that time of the year, I think you're probably better off playing some of the other courses here so you truly get the full experience. That being said, if you're a golf architecture nerd or a history buff, this is definitely the course that has all of those historical connotations. So if you're a big fan of CB MacDonald and some of those golden era courses, then, well, this is probably one you aren't gonna wanna miss, but I suggest trying to play it in the summer. All right, so the Sheep Ranch is the newest course at Bandon Dunes. It was built in 2020 by Core Crenshaw on a piece of land that was known as the Sheep Ranch, which was kind of a hidden course at Bandon Dunes that had kind of a rough routing and some incredible views. Well, the good news is the incredible views are still here. And the Sheep Ranch is definitely one of the most unique experiences here, and it certainly has the best views of any place on the property. But that can be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on how you want to look at it. So when I say a good thing or a bad thing, here's what I mean. I personally think you should make the Sheep Ranch the last round of golf you play here. Why is that? Because if it's the first round, you're gonna come and you're gonna see this. You've got ocean on every hole, the views are insane, and I personally think that if it's your first time here, it diminishes the experience just a little bit on courses like Bandon Dunes and Pacific Dunes that have some of the most memorable moments I have ever seen on a golf course, where you walk down the fairway on 4 at Bandon Dunes and see the ocean for the first time, or if you get off 3 green on Pacific and get to the tee box on 4. If you've been staring at this for an entire day before you go play those, you'll be like, oh, that's a nice view, but it's not Sheep Ranch. So I think by saving the best views for last, it's going to make the views on the other courses that much more impactful. As you can tell, it also gets a little windy here. So if possible, I would recommend playing Sheep Ranch on the morning of the last day that you're here, so you hopefully don't get the crazy winds. It's a little bit more benign, because even though this is arguably the easiest course at Bandon Dunes, when the wind is up, it's the most exposed and can very quickly become the most challenging. Yeah, honestly, it's only taken me about 5 minutes here to remind myself of why you should think very carefully before playing Sheep Ranch in the afternoon. It's windy. It's real windy. So a little known fact, there are nature trails all over Bandon Dunes, and you should go, let's face it, you're not gonna go check out the nature trails, but they're there should you need a break and wanna get back in touch with nature. All right, so one of the absolute must-do things here is the Punchbowl. It's basically the biggest, most fun, most ridiculous putting green you've ever seen. You come out here, you get a beer, you walk around with said beer, and you putt. It's modeled after the Himalayas course in St. Andrews. It's located at the Pacific Dunes Clubhouse, and it's honestly just a ton of fun. You will hit putts you have never hit in your life, up, down, left, right. It's just, it's wild. So it's one of the perfect things to do if you don't have time to fit in another 18 or even enough time to get in around to the preserve. Come here. You'll be glad you did. So Bandon Preserve is the par 3 course here, and to be honest, I think it is the best par 3 course in the world. I have not played anything that comes even close to being as good as the Preserve. The way I describe it to people is if you take any one of the 13 holes and you put it on any of the other courses at Bandon Dunes, you would be really excited to play that as an awesome par 3. So it's just 13 awesome par 3s, one after another. You've got great views and really fun holes where in some cases you can actually putt it 100 yards down the hill and still make it onto the green. As far as when to play the Preserve, this is the perfect round to fit into whatever extra time you have. If you're arriving late, play it late in the afternoon. If you've got to take off relatively early, try and fit it in beforehand. If you've got 36 in the middle of the summer and you don't want to try for 54, put it at the end of your round. The one thing to keep in mind is that a lot of people have the same idea where it's like, well, we don't have time for another 18, so we're going to fit this in. So don't just think you're going to walk over here and stumble into a tee time. It definitely gets crowded in the late afternoon, so make sure you plan ahead and make a tee time in advance. So I mentioned the Preserve, I mentioned the Punchbowl. One other course, yeah, there's a lot of stuff to do here at Bandon. One other thing you should keep in mind is Shorty's. So the practice facility at Bandon is massive. It's got one of the biggest putting greens you've ever seen. There's 2 separate ranges, one of which can turn into a 9-hole par 3 course. The course is free. You can just put in a couple bucks as a donation when you go off, but this is one of those places where I've seen people go out as 8, 12, 14 giant groups and just have an absolute blast. So this is another one. If you're looking to fit in an extra round here or there, go check out, see if Shorty's is open. It's not open all the time, depending on which range they're using, but it's one more Bandon experience, and it's one more reason why this place is so great. Should we mention that it feels a little sacrilegious that I'm here at Bandon Dunes filming this video rather than playing the course? You're welcome. All right, so when you're thinking about where to stay, this right here is a pretty compelling option. That's the lodge at Bandon Dunes. It is the center of everything. You have the Forge Steakhouse. You have the Tufted Puffin, which is kind of the all-day eating, breakfast, lunch, dinner. You can kind of do it all. And you've also got the Bunker Bar, which might be the best golf bar in the world. So the lodge is a great option if you kind of want to be close to everything and you're willing to pay a little bit of a premium to do it. Also, if you can get one of these rooms that are overlooking the 18th at Bandon Dunes, well, that doesn't suck. So Pacific Grill is the dining option here at Pacific Dunes. I would say this is probably the most romantic restaurant. Like if you were here on a date or with your wife, you wanted a nice dinner, I think that the sunsets here and the views here are really, really good and worth doing. Also, if you're looking for a good seafood meal, this is probably the place to get it. And it's definitely worth checking out while you're here. If you're looking for a little bit more of a budget option, the Inn right here, also a great option. You're still a short walk to the lodge at Bandon Dunes First Tee, or a short walk to Bandon Trails. You're still really close to everything, and you're going to pay a little bit less than at the Grove or at the Chrome Lake or at the lodge. Also, hot tip, if you want an excellent place to enjoy the afternoon after a morning 18, then get one of these rooms. I'll link to the exact name of them below, but you overlook the 18th green at Bandon Dunes, and every time I play the course, I'm like, yeah, it would be nice to sit here and look out at this. So, something to think about. So right across the street from the inn, you have the Lily Pond cottages, which you might have guessed it, are on Lily Pond. Also a great budget option. I'm pretty sure these all have fireplaces, so it's a little bit of an upgrade from some of the rooms at the inn, and you're pretty much just as close to the lodge. You have to cross the street, so the walking path isn't right there, but if you don't want to be driving or taking a shuttle to the Bunker Bar, dinner at the lodge, it's a great option. But worth noting, there are shuttles everywhere. It is very easy to get a shuttle, so you can park your car and get anywhere on the property in just a few minutes, which is one of the great things about coming here to Bandon. All right, and if you want the newest, nicest, best rooms at Bandon Dunes, you're going to want to stay at Round Lake because, let's face it, these rooms are ridiculous. You get a panoramic view of 6 at Bandon Trails, 7 at Bandon Trails. Everything is very new, very nice, and this would probably be my pick if you said I could stay anywhere. Unfortunately, for my sake, this is not my room on this trip, and I just have to deal with Patrick all the time, who...
VIPs only, baby!
Not sure why I hang out with him still, but I at least got to use the room to film this video. Finally, if you want more of the luxurious cabin buddies trip, then you're gonna wanna go get a cabin at the Grove. These are 4-bedroom cabins and cottages. They're similar to what you might find at a destination private club. They're very nice. It's the most expensive lodging option on property, but if you're splitting it with a few other people, then it ends up being not that bad. The best part of all of this is, honestly, there is not a bad decision. You can put me in any room at Bandon Dunes. I'm going to be happy. The shuttle will take you anywhere you need to go. So you literally literally you show up Bandon, you park your car, and you never have to get back in it for the duration of your trip. And that's a pretty cool experience when compared to other resorts, even like Pebble Beach or the American Club, Whistling Straits, Pinehurst. All of those places, you have to drive to the courses. Here, they are all on property. The shuttle will take you anywhere you want to go, and it's just a very convenient place to be. Oh yeah, and one of the great things about Bandon Dunes is you've got fire pits and beautiful patios overlooking pretty much every course here, including a brand new one at the lodge at Bandon Dunes. So if you don't want to do the Punchbowl, if you don't want to do Shorty's, if you don't want to go to a restaurant, you can just have a beer, enjoy the fire, enjoy the view. So the question I get asked more than any other when talking about Bandon Dunes is, how do I rank the 5 courses here? So I'll tell you. In 5th, I have Old MacDonald. I've grown to appreciate the course a lot more, but some of the holes just get downright long and challenging, and as someone who's kind of a mediocre golfer, it's not my favorite look. In 4th place, I've got the Sheep Ranch here. Unbelievable views, extremely fun, but I think that there are just some more memorable moments in terms of golf holes and design on some of the other courses, but that doesn't mean it's a bad course by any means. All of the courses here truly are deserving of their spots in the top 100 golf courses in the US and in the world. 3rd, and this is kind of close, I have Pacific Dunes. Every time I come out here, I like Pacific Dunes more and more, but it's a little bit more challenging than Bandon, and I like Bandon's flow going out to the ocean, back, out to the ocean, back. Pacific definitely has some of that as well, but for whatever reason, Bandon Dunes, that routing just resonates with me. 2nd is Bandon Dunes. The original course here, I think, is unbelievable. You've got some really fun par 3s, par 4s, par 5s, unbelievable views. 16 at Bandon Dunes at sunset might be one of the most memorable golf moments you will ever have. And finally, in a somewhat unpopular opinion, I think Bandon Trails is my favorite course at the resort. Every time I play it, I'm like, this is gonna be the time that I was like, no, I'm gonna move Bandon Dunes ahead of it, or we're gonna put Pacific Dunes up there. But I just played it again this morning. Every time I am blown away by how good the golf course is. Here's one thing that a lot of people don't think about. There are hundreds of courses on the ocean out there. It's unique, but it's still relatively common. There aren't that many courses that start out in the dunes, work into a meadow, up into forest, back into meadow, back into dunes. You have 3 distinct landscapes, which is part of what I think makes trails so unique. Also, when you're out there, you truly feel like you're out there all by yourself in the middle of nowhere, and I just love that experience on a golf course. So every time, trails for me. And I'm not saying that because that's the first place I broke 80, which it was. So there you go, that's my guide to Bandon Dunes. That's where I think you should eat, that's where I think you should play, that's when I think you should come. These are all the things that I think you should do. My name's Sean Ogle, I'm the founder of this thing here at Breaking 80, where I do cool golf course reviews and golf product reviews. If that sounds like something you're into, then maybe give this video a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button. We got new videos occasionally, and be sure to run over to breaking80.com/hive, get on our newsletter, where you'll be notified every time we have a sweet new video for you. So with that, I'm gonna go enjoy my last day here at Bandon. See you on the next one. Peace.